Hey everyone, how you doing? Wow, didn't we just talk about this game? Well, we have more news now. You have to be kidding me. Okay, so let's run through this loop one more time. PVZ3, the game that's somehow been in development for over 7 years now. PVZ3, the game that had an entirely unique, now cancelled version which we will talk about one day, and PVZ3, the game that's had the most nothing betas ever, is a game you're all probably familiar with at this point. It's hard not to know about it, considering that EA's been making a rather big push on PVZ recently, which is kind of a win? Sort of? We can talk about that in a different video. But what I want to focus on for this one is the changes to PVZ3, and we'll also be discussing leaked content as well, seeing as how I'm not going to stop being on PopCap's least favorite side anytime soon. Some say now is a better time than ever to get on their good side. I don't care. Oh, but to make sure that this coverage of PVZ3 is proper and a little more fair than last time, I actually played the first 100 levels of the game all over again. Why? Because it was tolerable, and we'll talk about that soon. For now, let's just get right into it. To start out here, I think covering what changed is pretty big. As I had mentioned in my previous video on this game, sorry what could have been developers by the way, I mentioned that Choose Your Seeds would be coming back. Guess what's in this update? And it is really obvious that the game was not built for this. Want to know how I figured that out? I didn't lose a single time while playing through this game. Not even once. Hell, I was cornering the stalk market, as Animal Crossing New Horizons puts it. Look at my turnip prices while I was playing level 80. That's a bit funny, though I do have to admit it's kind of sad. Though honestly, this difficulty makes the game way more playable too. One of my biggest gripes with PVZ3 in general was how difficult it was sometimes. There's just some levels here where even the smallest mistake leads to a massive snowball effect. And it's pretty evident that Choose Your Seeds fixes this issue by letting you cheese every single level, since you could just pick the best plants in the game. But even so, there's a lot of levels here where I could see a future that resulted in me losing simply because of one poor placement. So overall, I do appreciate this change, but just imagine some poor soul who doesn't understand which plants to use. Yikes. In regards to other quality of life changes, we also got a brand new tutorial. Kind of. Okay, so they added a sort of prologue to the main story, which is nice, and it also explains what's happening at the beginning. But that's not really my focus on the game. No, what I wanted to talk about was the first 10-ish levels, in which half of them are ripped from PVZ2. What? Okay, yeah, so they remade the tutorial levels from that game, which is kinda funny, but I also think it shows that this game can be a traditional PvZ game if it wanted to be, though it's just so fast-paced that it doesn't typically show that, which can be problematic for some, and I understand that. I just think it's interesting how they decided to make the tutorial levels a little bit more accessible for a lot of people, and I do appreciate that for what it's worth. Something that's a little odd to me is that that's all we got in terms of level design changes. Yeah, so some of the levels from before that introduced mechanics in the new tutorial are still pseudo-tutorial levels. I'm not kidding, here's the level that introduced Cabbage Bolt. We've known what this plant is for a while game, but thanks anyways. I just think it's interesting how despite the team making a few good changes here and there, the game itself remains surprisingly unchanged. Which I mean, hey, that's fine for now. I think addressing the core issues many people have with the game is a good start, and that's how I want to describe the updates in general. It's a good start. I won't ever call it genuinely good, but it's definitely an improvement, which is what pleases me. I will be expecting more levels to be remade because some of these are simply complete pushovers with a Choose Your Seeds implementation, or they're tutorial levels that you just don't need since the game introduces you to some concepts within the first 10 levels. Because, I mean, seriously, do they need to keep this? But with that being said, there's a little bit more I want to discuss in the video before we get to the leaks. That being the extra 50 levels I did, just to get a feel for it. And my honest thoughts are, meh. Yeah, it's about the same as I remembered from a few months back. Obviously, my takes on the game aren't as heated as back in February, because I was just tired of PvZ if you couldn't tell. But now, I mean, it's fine. The game's not going to impress anybody anytime soon, but that doesn't really matter to a lot of you. Whether it's a decent time or not is what's crucial, and I have a feeling that the later levels do get a bit better. I will say that beyond level 80, things actually started picking up for me as the mechanics started getting more interesting. I might play more in the future, but this game bores me a lot, so yeah, we'll see. Okay, now for the part of the video that's actually very interesting, the leaks. If you watched up to this point and you somehow didn't think that there would be any spoilers for future content of the game, I'm gonna give you a timestamp if you want to see my concluding thoughts, or you could just see yourself out of this video. I don't mind either way, thanks for sticking around as long as you did if you're dipping, but for those curious souls who decided to stay, what a set of leaks, am I right? Just looking at some of the new plants in the files of the game alone shows us that PopCap isn't done with making new plants. We still have Silver Swordin, who hasn't appeared since the 2022 betas, rest in peace, but we also have a few other faces that we've never gotten a chance to see in this game before, including Coconut Cannon and Colonel Bolt. Huh, no kidding. Can we talk about how out of place Coconut Cannon looks, by the way? This is just such a weird render. But regardless, these are all in right now. Additionally, there's code in the files relating to a ton of new lawn settings, like, you know, a beach and stuff. That's pretty cool, but to me, nothing is as interesting as the zombie leaks. And there's a bunch. Parasol Zombie, Acrobat Imp, Ducky Tube Zombies, Sunbather Zombies, Balloon Zombies. The list goes on and on and on. Same for the plants too, honestly. But the zombies are much more intriguing to me, since they make the game interesting. So I look forward to seeing how everything happens, and these leaks give me just a little bit more hope for PVZ3's future. Okay, wow, crazy leaks, am I right? Whoa. Anyways, here's my conclusion. PVZ3 is in a surprisingly fine spot right now. I wouldn't call it good as it stands, but I'm also not dreading every second of playing the game, which is, in this particular case, much better than where it was. Some say that a bad game is more interesting than a boring one, and I agree on that on most fronts. However, where I disagree with that point is with this game, since we've seen it at its worst, and it was just painful and boring. At least now, I can confidently say that it's a game you should try at least once. You might actually enjoy it quite a bit. And with that, I think I'll end this video here. As always, you can download an APK from Floral that gives you access to the game as long as you have an Android phone or emulator, regardless of the country you live in, so give it a shot. Also, if you watched until the end and you like this video, then like it, maybe? Thanks if you do. Subscribe as well, possibly. And finally, I'd like to give some big shoutouts to my extra Y-Side channel members, those being Dan B, Glitch into Code 867, Nicholas Vankowski, Sleepy, Song, Sophie Gaming, and Wapfa. Alongside my one normal member, thank you all so much for supporting my content, you rock. And now, as for me here, I'll be not playing PVZ3. Okay, wow, suddenly I feel much happier with life. Peace.